Good evening, all. We've got thunderstorms rolling through New England with flash flood watches up and a few flash flood warnings. But for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, the nasty thunderstorms from earlier today are pretty much done. We've got air quality alerts continuing over parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. The excessive heat wave continues across the South and the Southwest. And Tropical Storm Calvin continues to move toward the big island of Hawaii. And we will have it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which, of course, every night is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. And whether you need mulch or topsoil or sand, you can get it at Omni. Also, remember, with hurricane season, the peak of the season, to start to rev up soon enough, make sure you've got everything you need just in case. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the chat. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. Use the referral code and the referral link, and use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, because if you do, Joe, what do they get?
They're going to get 10% off anything they buy through Tempest, and that's a heck of a great deal.
It is. So, around midday today, I happened to look at the radar and watch that nasty line of storms that formed. It was kind of weird because they started forming east of Trenton in New Jersey, and then as you watch the loop, this straight line just kept advancing northeastward up into northeastern New Jersey, and then eventually up further north into the Hudson Valley. Did you partake in any of those storms?
Yes and no. We did have some rumbles of thunder here in Putnam Valley around the time I was getting my hair cut. And
how dare there be a thunderstorm while you're getting your hair dyed? Done.
We got all of 3/100ths of an inch on my rain gauge, although at one point the rain was coming down at a rate or an intensity equivalent to 0.22 inches per hour. So it was coming down fairly hard for a very brief interval of time, but we kind of missed out on what hit Brooklyn, Queens, parts of New York, and also what hit areas north of my area, up near New Paltz. My daughter is up in the New Paltz area, and she says that from her conservative estimate, that they may have received in one sitting 3 to maybe 5 inches of rain from a single thunderstorm cell that passed right over them. So it's been rough. It seems like every day another part of the tri-state area is targeted for possible heavy weather from flooding and thunderstorms and whatever. And today, fortunately for me, it was north and south. I say fortunate, Joe, because there was no evidence of any wetness or puddling in my basement, either my office or the adjacent TV room, which means that tomorrow we are finally targeting moving everything back to where it was, and hopefully tomorrow night I'll be back in the more familiar setting of my office as opposed to up here on a laptop doing the show for
that's good.
For you.
When did your daughter say she had this thunderstorm? When did you talk to her?
My daughter?
Yeah.
My daughter claims that this storm hit around 4 or 5 o'clock.
All right. I asked because. Okay,
the garden are under 3 to 5 inches of water.
The gardens in New Paltz are under 3 to 5 inches of water.
In the garden.
And she has a plot in the garden.
Wiped out.
And completely wiped out.
Right.
Okay.
So everything they planted is wiped out. And the only thing that remains is the potato bags that I gave them for Christmas.
Oh my, the whole crop was wiped out. I mean, you're going to have to deal with this famine that's going to result. Um, no, the reason why I ask is because
And incidentally, if you think you've had a bad day today, anybody out there who's on the chat board, if you've been saying to yourself, boy, it was a terrible day for me, for whatever reason, let me give you an even worse scenario. At the break of dawn this morning, I woke up, Renata and I woke up, went 8 minutes away to my son and daughter-in-law's house to take them to JFK Airport for their fabulous 2-week Hawaiian vacation. We got them to JFK at 7:30 for a flight that was scheduled to leave at 10 o'clock.
right.
I will tell you right now, they are still at JFK Airport.
Oh God. Well,
Uh,
that is the ongoing nightmare for everybody that's traveling these days.
they
People
claim
fly
that something broke. They claim that something broke on the airplane, and
the liquor.
they had to, because of safety concerns. The plane was grounded until they fixed it. Then they said they actually fixed it at 1 o'clock this afternoon. But then they realized that the flight attendants and the pilot and co-pilot were walking out of the airport. Apparently, they had stayed the length of time that they were allowed to stay, and now they were heading back to wherever they go to rest up to come back around midnight tonight. And then they rescheduled the flight for something like 12:15 a.m. And then they changed that to 1:45 a.m. because they claimed that the
Oh
plane
my
needed a part.
God.
They said the plane needed a new part. And that's when, literally, according to my son, literally everybody who was on that plane at the gate literally rushed the poor soul who was at the gate with the little microphone or speaker saying, wait a minute, you told us that the plane was fixed at 1 o'clock. Now you're saying it's still broken? Hamana, 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 hamana. And now they're saying that the part is going to arrive at Newark Airport at 10 o'clock, and they're going to take it by car to JFK and then put it onto the plane in hopes
Well, they
of getting
better
the
take
flight
it by
off.
car because if they take it by plane, it's going to get delayed at Newark, so it'll never get there.
So if you're saying to yourself, boy, what a lousy day this was for me today, just consider this. My son and daughter-in-law, and also a friend of my daughter-in-law's, who also I drove to JFK this morning, they're still there, and they're just sitting there waiting. The airline did give them vouchers, Joe, for $12 a piece to get dinner. So I don't know what you can get for $12. In any case,
Not very much. Yeah,
oh
no,
God.
the reason why I asked about the thunderstorm at your daughter's house is because when it happened was because it looks like they've got another one, and they might even have a flash flood warning up near where she is. So I'm gonna bring up the radar, and we can watch this on the UCAR radar. That cell that's northwest of Poughkeepsie. You see it there. This is this loop is 4 hours long. So
It
uh,
almost looks like it's train,
yeah,
you
to an
know?
extent it is. Yeah, there's.
Southwest of Northeast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you could see it here. It's just crossing the Hudson north of Poughkeepsie. It's got to be close to them in New Paltz, if not right over New Paltz. And that goes up. It's kind of a broken line that goes up into upstate New York. You see the cells that are around the Albany area. Down south, though, when we look at this is the OKX radar. The storms that were from earlier today at the beginning of the loop pulled out. Then there was another couple of strong cells coming off of New Jersey that came into Long Island, but much of that now is weakened. So the southern end of this is not doing very much, but we'll go to Albany, and you can see the line in New England with the showers and thunderstorms moving through eastern Massachusetts and New Hampshire. There's another line in Vermont that is moving eastward now into western New Hampshire. Then there's this third line that runs from north of Albany. This is a very interesting radar tonight because you think normally it's just one line and done, but we keep seeing these lines of storms just forming. But the trough and the frontal boundary starting to shift to the east, so that keeps eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England now pretty much out of it. And we'll just take also a look at the Boston radar, and that's a nice looking line there, running from Maine down into eastern Massachusetts. Although this one too has weakened somewhat, but now that goes. And then you've got these other lines of storms out to the west that start to come on the scene. But that was from 4 hours ago. That was a really nasty looking line crossing Massachusetts, Vermont, and I'm sorry, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and into Maine. The other area is one I'm watching. So I'm going to switch. I'm going to go down to the radar here in Peachtree in Atlanta.
By the way, Renata just texted my daughter and said, "OMG, still raining?" And my daughter replied, "Yes, it's crazy." Although there was a little bit of a lull.
Well, a lull is good.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, we know eventually it is going to stop. But this is from the Atlanta radar, and if you look on the upper left, I'm waiting for that to see how much of that is going to hold together. Because frankly, I put some more plants down in my last flower bed today, and I watered them nicely. So I watered all my flowers today in my garden of Eden. But I'd like to get some natural rainwater, so I don't have to stand out with the hose. But there are some stronger storms that are moving southeastward. That's part of a severe thunderstorm watch that covers part just into northwest Georgia and into Alabama. This is the one in High Top, the radar in High Top, Alabama. And you see the storms going through Birmingham there were quite ferocious when they moved on through. They've actually weakened as they moved eastward, but seemed to hit Birmingham a few hours ago when they were at their peak intensity. So, and on the wide radar view, the green boxes, Joe, you got the green box. Is your daughter in Ulster County?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like there's a box there for Ulster County for a flash flood warning. And also up around the Albany area, we've got a couple of counties there that are sitting in flash flood warnings, as well as one in southern Vermont, another one in southeastern New Hampshire, and a couple of flash flood warnings up in the great state of Maine. But this should all start to shift eastward and get out of here in the next several to 6 hours. It might take a little longer to clear out New England, but not much going on. Once you go to southern New York down into north into Virginia, some cells in West Virginia, southern Ohio, a few severe thunderstorm warnings there. One severe thunderstorm warning in southeastern Tennessee, another one in southwestern Tennessee, and nosing into Mississippi. And then further to the west, we actually have got showers and storms. If you look at this, there's a ridge over here, and these thunderstorms are actually rotating clockwise. Normally, we always look for that counterclockwise rotation, but in this instance, when you look at the radar, because of where the upper high is, which is somewhere sitting down here. Oh, why doesn't it let me write when I want to write? Lord have mercy. But there you go. So there's these storms are actually.
I told you not to get rid of the plexiglass map with the grease pencil.
Right, the grease pencil and the magnetic stick-on things.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, these storms are actually rotating counterclockwise. That heat wave, by the way, in the Southwest, Phoenix set a record today, 19 days in a row above 110, and that breaks a record that goes back to 1974. They also set a record, although I didn't catch the actual number of nights, but they've had the consecutive nights of lows above 90 degrees. That record has also been broken.
Oh.
Now, can you imagine that, though, 90 degree for a low?
Well, on a few occasions in New York, you and I are both Bronx boys, and I lived in a brick house that faced toward the west-northwest. So the sun was just like beating down, and that unfortunately was my room. It was that part of the house. And I could tell you that on a few occasions, at 11 o'clock at night, you could feel the heat radiating off the bricks. and it was probably, I know Central Park was at or around 90 at that hour,
Yeah,
and
I
never
can
got
remember
much
a
lower
few
than
of those.
yeah.
My house
So
also
yeah,
my house in the Bronx also was a brick house that faced west northwest.
yeah,
Not fun.
yeah. No, not fun at all.
Nope.
The first paycheck I ever got when I started at a private weather forecast office,
In
like
Fresno,
early
North
70s, the
Dakota,
first, yeah,
or in Fargo,
the
North
first
Dakota.
paycheck I got, I invested it in an air conditioner and put it into my window of my room. And I have to tell you that that air conditioner, and my room was not exactly a very big room. It was a relatively small room. But if I turned the air conditioner up high and closed the door, within a half an hour, if you walked into my room, it felt like a meat locker. And that's exactly how I wanted it. For all those years that I used to suffer in there with the extreme heat on summer nights with the windows wide open.
Right, and the
You,
sheet and the one sheet stuck to your body.
yes, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's
Wow.
not
So
good.
90 degrees for it didn't fall below 90 for a low.
Right.
I thought I heard something where was it Phoenix or Tucson or someplace didn't fall below 95 for a low temperature? Or maybe it was Needles, California or
I
something
wouldn't doubt it.
ridiculous.
I wouldn't doubt it. We're just trying to work on the dew points to get them under 70. We might actually do that tomorrow once this front comes through. That's in central New York and in northwest Pennsylvania. But it was another very warm, humid day with the big dew points. The fact that the areas that got the thunderstorms in the middle of the day actually got lucky because that helped to keep the temperatures down to some degree. It was a hot day in the great state of Georgia, although the dew points here weren't too bad. They were in the low 60s. Got to
Oh, I'd kill for,
I got to
kill
89
for,
here in the mountains.
I'd kill right now I would kill for a 62 dew point.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too bad. And actually, there isn't much in the way of thunderstorm activity. Usually in the Gulf states in July, you'd have storms everywhere, but you really don't have that much. I'll go back to the radar, and you can see, yeah, up in the northern parts of Alabama, northernmost Mississippi, northernmost Alabama, and into Tennessee, but usually you'd see I mean, I'm looking at southeast Louisiana where it's almost every day there's usually thunderstorms after 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I mean there was nothing today. It just shows you, what's going on here with the heat, the heat ridge, this sort of very flat east-west heat ridge that covers the south. There's just nothing. The air's too stable, so there's not much for it to work on, even in the swamplands of southeast Louisiana. Some scattered cells that you see there down in Florida. And when we check the wide satellite loop, you can see where all the lightning strikes are tonight, and they're up in New England and upstate New York, and also in those storms in southern Ohio into West Virginia. And then this active, looks like a bode line that is moving through Tennessee and trying to make it to me. We'll see, because I can already see the lightning strikes are beginning to diminish. I just want a little bit of the rain. That's all I want. And you can also, excuse me, we got a wad of dust in my throat right before the show. It won't go away. And you can see some of the clouds that are out in parts of the southwest, but not where the temperatures are soaring up above 110 again. In fact, I'm going to go back to this map. Let's just see. 100-degree readings all across Texas. And I see a 114 at Phoenix. I see what looks like a 105 for Las Vegas, and 110 plus in southeastern California, and 100-degree readings that go up, northwest from there into places like Sacramento and Santa Rosa and so on. So scorching hot and more 100-degree readings to come. Okay, the Storm Prediction Center, Joe, has a marginal to slight risk, and that kind of played out according to plan. And the marginal to slight and enhanced risk that's in Tennessee and Kentucky is playing out according to plan. And you have a marginal to slight risk up through the central and northern plains, which is also working out. So they did okay with their forecast. Now tomorrow, Tomorrow, Joseph, they've got marginal risk to southern New Jersey. Now, if you look at the GFS, you think, okay, you know what? It's not going to do anything tomorrow. If you look at the European, it's got it indicates that we probably could see some showers and thunderstorms fire up tomorrow afternoon in New Jersey, maybe up to about New York City and Long Island. So, I had to toss them in the forecast for tomorrow.
I understand that. In fact, if you had asked me several days ago, I would have said, Wednesday looks like a sterling day, not so much from the viewpoint that we're going to have cool, dry Canadian air, but that the dew point temperatures are going to be going down probably to near 60. Now, it looks like they'll be in the low 60s tomorrow, which is a big improvement over today. And so you're probably going to feel it. But with that drop in the dew point temperatures and the lowering of the humidity, you would have expected that, well, we don't have to mention any chance for any thunderstorm activity or any showers. But yes, it looks like there will be a chance, especially from New York City or coastal Connecticut and Long Island and points south. That looks like the best chance of seeing something crop up or pop up later in the day tomorrow. Maybe as you go head up into the Hudson Valley and points north, you'll be able to get away with just a lot of building clouds in the afternoon, but not enough moisture to generate a shower or thunderstorm. But in any case, it's going to feel a little bit better tomorrow, I think, from the comfort standpoint, as opposed to the last couple of days, especially today. And hopefully we'll be able to, Joe, see an even better humidity or dew point drop by the weekend. We'll see.
Well, we got to get there first. Now, here's Thursday.
Yeah.
Now, here's Thursday, where they've got general thunderstorms all the way up to 2, but not including all of Maine. They've got a marginal to slight risk in parts of South and North Carolina. They've got a slight risk over Ohio, eastern Indiana, and Kentucky. They also got a slight risk in southeast Colorado, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and northwest Texas. I wasn't 100% sold on the idea that, I don't know if I would have drawn the risk areas this way. I kind of looked at when I was looking at everything. I was wondering, late Thursday into Thursday night, there probably should be some thunderstorms around. I just wonder whether it was enough here for maybe trying to push the marginal risk a little bit further to the east. The other thing is they don't have their Friday forecast. And I'm not so sure on Friday. There's an upper trough that's got to get through here on Friday. And I wonder whether we might have to deal with some risks for thunderstorms on Friday before the dry air arrives.
I would say that there is that possibility that we might see thunderstorms on Friday.
And I wonder whether we might have some severe weather risk. It's going to be a sharp dew point. A relatively sharp dew point drop into the weekend. It might be enough to set off some severe weather on Friday.
Something might be close to severe, let's say late Thursday night in central Pennsylvania, and then the question is, will it continue eastward and remain at a strength that would allow it to become still a possible, severe type level storm by early Friday morning? This looks like something that might happen not later in the day Friday, but something that would be happening in the early part of the day.
Yeah, or maybe into Friday afternoon, and then the front moves out during the everything moves out during the afternoon hours, and weather conditions improve later in the afternoon. That from west to east, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The rainfall amounts, again, use the double rule with convection here. So they've got half to 3/4 of an inch over the next 7 days. So when we do get thunderstorms, I think what we get at the end of the week is pretty much covered in here, because we may actually be able to stretch some rain-free weather for more than 2 days. Maybe beyond the weekend into the first day or two of next week, but we'll see. But if that's the case, this would be, for Thursday and Friday. Then in a few places, what's left over tonight. So a half to 3/4, you say, okay, well, that doesn't sound like too much, but with thunderstorms and convection, it's always wise that some places locally could wind up with at least double that. You see the heavy rain, 1.5 to 2.5 inches across central and eastern Tennessee, parts of southern Kentucky, extreme northern Georgia, and northeastern Alabama. A little same idea along the Gulf Coast, southeast Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. In the Central Plains, looking at 3/4 of an inch to an area of 2.5 inches plus, a few two small patches of 1.5 inch plus rainfalls. Let's. How about we do Calvin, shall we?
Calvin. And I told my daughter-in-law and son, oh, you'll be arriving in plenty of time. You'll probably be arriving in Honolulu well before Calvin. Calvin may make it to Hawaii before they do.
Right.
Probably will.
Well, the latest satellite and from the latest advisory, I didn't look at the reconnaissance aircraft report, but apparently there was enough there. And actually, the presentation on the satellite looks like there's a bit more convection today on the loop. So they upped the winds to 50, back to 50 miles an hour as it continues.
They also said the interaction with sea surface temperatures above 27 degrees Celsius would help to encourage the storm to intensify, which apparently it has been doing. And so that is why they have maintained it as a tropical storm. The only island, however, from what I see, is the Big Island, Hawaii, that is under a tropical storm advisory or watch or
warning.
Oahu, which is where Honolulu is, and most of the other islands are still outside of that zone of advisory criteria, I guess. So, I mean, not to say that it won't get a little bit breezy and there may be a few scattered showers, but the main lion's share of activity from Calvin looks like it'll be hitting the Big Island, mostly the southern half of the Big Island, since that'll be where the storm is going to be tracking closest to.
Well, I stand corrected on the 50 miles an hour because on the new advisory, which just came out, we just had this just in moment, Joe. The 2 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, which is 8 o'clock Eastern, 17.8 north, 152.3 west is where it is plotted. The Big Island is at 155, so it's about a little less than 200 miles southeast of the Big Island. Top winds are now 60 miles an hour, moving west at 21. So it's going to be there before the center is going to be very close to the Big Island before midnight. Moving at a speed of 21 miles per hour or around midnight. And then you see the track, as you said, it's going to pass. The center's going to pass probably a good 70 or 80 miles south of Oahu, and then continue on its west-northwest track, which eventually they weaken it to a depression. But yeah, usually these things at this stage of the game really don't hold together pretty well. It's a little unusual to see it strengthening here right before it approaches the island. But you know what? Nothing is following rules anymore. Okay? Right. And you and I have talked about that. We could look at the Honolulu radar. Now, HWA, just for I'm pulling it up, says, sorry, data unavailable for the requested date and time. So for some reason it ain't working, which is perfect timing. But there's another one, HKM.
I'll bet you what they probably did was they probably scheduled this week for we're changing the transformer on the radar this week, and so we're not going to be able to use.
Well, this is the other radar on the northern part of the island, and there's not. I mean, there's some echoes that are showing up ahead of it. You'll see it on the last few frames before it just started over again. But you're going to see some echoes come in from the right. So it looks like those look like they're way ahead of the main stuff. And you would probably see it also maybe accessed a little bit further to south because that's pretty far north there, where you're seeing those echoes. So not here for the show, but this is what the Honolulu radar looks like. And you know what? Why don't we just take a look at the Hawaii Weather Service.
I do have to give Calvin, though, little bit of a round of applause because this storm system was out near the coast of Mexico, a bit of a ways off the Mexican coast. But any storm, any tropical cyclone that is out there heading westward, usually, and you just mentioned this, Joe, usually they peter out well before they get even within striking distance of Hawaii. But this is not one of those cases. This is one of those cases where this thing has made it all the way. This was originally in the Eastern Pacific, and normally you don't see storms in the Eastern Pacific make it as far as the Central Pacific.
Yeah.
Usually the Hurricane Center in Honolulu, they look at these storms off of Mexico and they say, that's not going to bother us. This one is bothering you, and you have to take it into consideration. Again, doesn't happen very often, but again, this seems to be the year, or at least the summer, where nothing seems to be going or following the script. Nothing seems to be going right. They seem to be doing the opposite.
This looks like a fish hook that's moving westward on the enhanced satellite view. So the clouds are just barely beginning to arrive at the Big Island, and the enhanced area is still well a ways to the east. Though even though the center is down on the southern end of this and passes just to the just south of the Big Island, but it looks like they're going to get some wind and rain out of this as it goes by.
Yeah, in spite of the fact that it's weakening, there will be, and as I said, if you're in Honolulu, they're probably going to see a bit of a gusty breeze and a couple of passing showers.
All right.
Nothing that they can't handle, but it's not going to be what you usually expect to see in Honolulu in July, which is typically, sunny to in the afternoon, a few puffy, big billowing cumulus clouds. I mean, this will be a little bit of an unsettled weather pattern for only about a day or so. As to my daughter-in-law, the tropical storm, what are they going to do? We're going to Hawaii. I said, how many days are you going to be there in Honolulu, in Hawaii?
2 weeks, for God's sake. So you lose a day or two. Big deal.
Lose a day or two. Although they're losing a day right now, but it's not because of Calvin. It's because obviously of something else. So
right. I just want to see something here. Trying to get the NAO to come up. Why is it doing this to me? Come on. Is it this one?
The internet.
Maybe it's this one. Let's see. NAO. I haven't looked at this. Yeah, we're still. Take a look. We're still negative here on this NAO, although it's only one standard deviation. But in the summertime, one standard deviation's a lot, and most of the members stay negative right into August 1st. The mean straddles, barely back to the neutral line. But we have been mostly negative on the NAO, Joe, since June 1st, and got really negative once we moved into the month of July. I mean, all of this deep negativity in the NAO, you can match it up with what we've been going through in terms of these, rain events and these weather fronts that are coming with frequency here. This negative NAO pattern is the cause, and it wants to, it wants to still stay slightly negative from now through the end of the month and into the beginning of August. So probably means maybe we won't see another one of those widespread rain events. Let's hope not. And certainly after 2 Sundays in a row, it would be nice if we didn't for the third for this coming weekend. And it looks like we'll be okay. But you can see the trough at the end of the week that strengthens on Friday over the Great Lakes. This is why I'm thinking maybe for Friday you just got to be a little careful with regards to some thunderstorms and maybe a severe thunderstorm or two during the day on Friday before we get into the dry air. Look at this trough, Joe. This is July. And you've got the westerly winds at the bottom of the trough is all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. I mean, come on. Look at that.
Joe, what can I tell you?
Ridging the Atlantic, ridging all the way up to Greenland. Cut off low off the Pacific Northwest coast, ridge in the west, trough in the east. And this has been the signature. I mean, this is really, but this is unusually strong.
What is the height of that high over the Four Corners area?
Nah, it's not too bad. It's a 594 height line.
Oh,
So
well,
figure maybe a 96-ish. I mean, we've seen highs going into the 600s in some
right.
in some heat waves in the summertime. It's not quite to that extent. That trough disappears. The strength of that jet disappears, but the trough lingers in the east into early next week, and it pulls up a little bit. Then another one. Look at this one. Strengthens right along eastern from Labrador down to New England come the last weekend of July, and then drops westerlies down to North Carolina, and then that doesn't really do very much. It just sort of part of it pulls out, part of it drops south near Bermuda. You know, I don't know. It I don't know what to make of it much beyond after 10 days. I still say, the trend is your friend, so you might as well just, at this stage of the game, we may continue to just linger this pattern into August.
I've seen summers where on the 500 there's like only like 2 or 3 height lines.
Right, across the United States. Yeah, if that.
Yeah, and
or,
not here.
Every once in a while you get a ridge that basically runs from coast to coast. Nothing like that this year. So anyway, we run our surface map tomorrow. We'll throw in a shower or thunderstorm threat, especially south of New York City down to the Delmarva Peninsula into Virginia. Thursday, dayside should be okay. Then we'll get to some thunderstorms Thursday night. And I think the GFS is in a rush to get it out of the way on Friday morning. I think the Europeans got a better idea in keeping storm risks into the afternoon. And then after that, as you said, the dew points should really come down nicely, I think, for Saturday and Sunday. They should be reasonable. If you have a trough with the westerlies all the way down to the Florida Panhandle, if you can't get the dew points to get down to the low 60s, you got a real problem.
Low 60s. I'm rooting for maybe even upper 50s. I can't even imagine. And you know who's going to be the happiest is my air conditioner.
Yes.
I think I've been running the air conditioner solely more because of the humidity as opposed to the heat. I mean, there have been a few hot days, but my God, the humidity just makes it almost unbearable.
Yep.
So just to bring the humidity down, even with temperatures in the upper and middle 80s, should feel really nice Saturday and also for Sunday.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's really much going on across this country, though. I mean, in terms of showers and thunderstorms over the weekend, certainly in the Northeast, there shouldn't be much of anything. The weekend looks really good, and it does look like it wants to try to be dry into the middle, at least the middle part of next week, before we get another cold front that'll approach late next week. So we've got we have hope that we could actually string more than 2 days back to back of decent weather, rain-free weather. Maybe 2 of those days with low dew points, and then they start to come up again. But that's about as much as you can get in July, anyhow.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we'll see
what
the situation is.
I have a Briller Jeopardy.
Well, then go to it.
All right. Well, let me hold on. I got to get back on the screen here. Excuse me. Johnny Quest says that Mauna Loa is supposed to have a tropical storm conditions tonight, and their temperatures are in the mid-30s. I mean, how high up is that?
That's Celsius, right?
No, I think
I hope it's.
Well, how high? What's the peak there? I mean, it's July though. I don't know. Where did he get the mid-30s from?
Well, if it's Celsius, 90 degrees is 32.
Right. Well, this is the the message says, of course, Messenger now doesn't want to open. It says
mid-30s would be like 96, 97.
Mauna Loa is supposed to have a tropical storm conditions tonight with temps in the mid-30s. But is Mauna Loa at the top of the volcano?
Well, that's Mauna Loa.
Mauna Loa. Oh,
right.
I pronounced it Mauna Loa. So is there a Mauna Loa?
No, there's Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa.
And then there's Mona Lisa.
Yeah. Now,
All
Mauna
right.
Loa is 13,700 feet above sea
All
level.
right, so then it could be in the 30s up there.
And that's Fahrenheit.
Yes, that's Fahrenheit.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All
Because
right.
let me tell you something, Joe. Let me tell you something. If you're 13,700 feet above sea level and you've got a temperature of 35 Celsius,
Yeah.
you in big trouble.
Well, no, we're in big trouble down
Yeah,
here. Okay,
exactly.
so tonight's Briller Jeopardy is a little bit different. So we're going to be doing a category that I would never ever survive this one at all because I wasn't a big watcher of this show. I watched it from time to time, but I wasn't much of a sitcom watcher at that point in my life. Seinfeld, Joe, Seinfeld. So the
Yes.
first question tonight is what was the name of Seinfeld's mom? I'm sorry, of Kramer's mom.
Oh, and she was the one who revealed to everybody who Kramer's first name was. It's Cosmo. But what was her name?
What
What
was the
was
name
her?
of Kramer's mom? Chat board? Anybody? No one's put no. Leon Probitsky put up no clue, and then the chat board just. Oh, here we go. Steve Lapointe says Rose. William Uber says Framer. Uh, Helen Bertona says Doris. Rich Rothmansky says Baba, and that's close. And then he changed it to the correct answer, Joe, which is Babs.
Babs. Yep.
Who was the voice of George Steinbrenner? Who was the voice
Wasn't that
of George Steinbrenner?
that's his partner, Seinfeld's partner on the show, and he also came up with the new show that ran for a few years.
Was it
Oh,
Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Enthusiasm. Yeah.
Okay. No, the voice. Who was the voice of George
Harry
Steinbrenner?
David.
And Jason Schaefer gets it. Larry
Yes.
David. Excuse me. What was George's ATM code or ATM
Oh,
password?
easy one. All right, everybody on the chat board, all together. That chocolatey, syrupy drink, Bosco.
Bosco.
That
Bosco. What was Newman's telephone shaped as? What was
what was Newman's?
Newman's telephone shaped as?
That's a good one.
Newman's telephone. Yeah, everybody's getting stumped on this. Joe Z says B either, Steve.
A
Banana,
banana.
no. Helen Bartona. Mailbox, no. Environmental Coffee House. Shoe, no. Northern Grace. No other guesses? A triangle, no. Carol DeCiara. Karen Vanderbeck. Football, no. No, Steve Lapointe was not shaped like Joe Biden. I know you need weather questions, but this is what I got today. Okay. Jason Schaefer, phone booth. Ah, Patrick Darcy got it. A hot dog. Hot dog. And who thinks Jerry is a very, very bad man?
Oh, he's a very bad man. Babu.
Babu is
Babu.
is correct.
I am going to. He was sent back to Pakistan, and toward the end of that show, he said, "I am going to somehow get back to America, and I'm going to extract vengeance on this man. He's a very, very bad man."
Like I said, I wasn't a big watcher of the show, so I wouldn't have even gotten any of those. None of them, except maybe the Larry David one.
I didn't watch the show at all when it was on the NBC network on Thursday night. And so I knew nothing about it. And so it then went into syndication. And that's when I started watching it. And I became a Seinfeld fan while it was in syndication, not when it was first run television. Although for me it was first run because I never saw any of the
I
episodes
watched
before.
it like I watched episodes on and off through the last maybe 2 seasons or 3 seasons. But it was I wasn't there every single night, and I certainly didn't watch the show during syndication. So it was. I mean, it was okay when I was watching it, but I had no interest in seeing the episodes over and over again. Perry Mason
There's
is
some
a
I like.
different story. I was watching that tonight.
Yes.
All right, listen, I got this wad of dust in my throat, and I'm choking to death here. So, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you do make a purchase on the Tempest on the Tempest Weatherflow website of any item, use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, and you will get
10% off.
And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, your go-to place as hurricane season gets closer and closer to peak time. You want to make sure you're protected and prepared. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. They're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
All right, so we will see everybody tomorrow night at 7:35 Eastern Time.
I hope so.
Okay.
And I hope tomorrow night I'll be back in the good old office after being out of it for about 8 days or so, waiting for it to dry out. But it looks like
fingers crossed.
We'll be there tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow, everybody. Nighty night.
Bye.